What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Our first guest is one of the most popular, well, actually, all the people tonight are like our most beloved male presenters on the show. And of course, I'm about to introduce Chief Phil Lane. And I just want to say one of the things that I love about Phil is his humility. He is so clear on what it means to be a healthy man. And we're about to hear that. But one of the things that's beautiful about Phil is he's also very, very humble. So it's my honor. He really doesn't need an introduction because you all know him. He's been on the show many, many times, going all the way back to the beginning. Welcome back to the awakening world, beloved brother Chief Phil Lane Jr.
Well, my very, very beloved brother, it's such an honor to be here with all the good relatives that are here that really reflect who we really are as human beings. And I want to preface my prayer with this understanding. Our soul has no gender, has no ethnicity, has no race, has no class. Our soul is a reflection of the oneness of our Creator, which makes every form of prejudice whatsoever it is completely and totally unacceptable. Yes, in this world of duality, we have things that challenge us and so forth, but really, when we speak of our soul, which some people, in referring to who we are as human beings, call the divine masculine, some call it the divine masculine is the divine feminine. Others call the divine feminine what we might call the divine masculine. But I want to say I believe that every one of us as human beings has all these holy, sacred qualities. And as we're coming together as a human family, joining together in this long promised day of peace, we're learning to embrace all these holy and sacred qualities. Creator of the universe, most beloved one, all powerful one, most kind one, most compassionate one, ever forgiving one. Oh, blessed beauty, we call upon your holy power and all our beloved relatives who are closer than the closest vein to be with all of us tonight as we go through this great time of transformation, long promised by all our sacred prophecies from everywhere on Mother Earth. While Condor, creator of all good things, we especially want to give thanksgiving for all our beloved relatives, tribes, and nations of the East from where comes the red sunrise. And we call upon them, as we have done for countless, countless centuries in our traditional ways, to come together in unity and harmony. We call upon all the tribes and nations of the South, where comes a new life, where springtime arises, where that sun hangs at high noon, everything is a little bit yellow. Call all those tribes and nations together in unity and peace and harmony. We call upon all the tribes and nations of the West, from where comes thunder, lightning, and rain. They might come together. That thunder and lightning might awaken our souls our hearts and minds to a reality we're one human family, all of us children of one Mother Earth. And in Kashawa Kantik, we call upon all the tribes and nations of the north, from where comes the white snow. Those refreshing, beautiful north winds to purify our hearts and minds from all save our beloved Creator, so we're free and detached from this physical world of time and space. We also give thanksgiving to what we're celebrating tonight, was called the Divine Masculine Creator, Father Sky. We ask forgiveness for our awkward ways that have brought us to this place, long promise, where we would have to make some very critical decisions, which we are now, to move towards understanding we're one human family, we're children of one Mother Earth, and our destiny is to arise in oneness into a new planetary civilization, as we've been praying for. And also, of course, we humble ourselves to our beloved Mother Earth and her spiritual representatives, womankind, who bore us forth through their womb. So we want to thank our mothers at this time, and our aunties, and our daughters and grandmothers, as well, of course, as our grandfathers, our fathers, our sons, grandchildren. We might truly, truly understand the essence of oneness, that we are one. And now I want to share this prayer for unity, which has been with me for so many years. Oh my God, unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal unto them thy great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide in thy law. Help them, O God, in their endeavor, and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, lead them not to themselves, but guide their steps to the light of knowledge, and share their hearts by thy love. Verily, thou art their helper, the Lord. And here's one I like to say every day. Aid me, O my Lord, to surrender myself wholly thy will, and to arise and serve thee. For I cherish this earthly life for no other purpose than to encompass the tabernacle of thy revelation and the seat of thy glory. Hallelujah. Washtelo, Shukmano Hemeado, Shinupasaba Meado, Hallelujah. Washte. As we always close the Dakotas, we always say our names. My name is Shukmano, a leader of warriors who takes the enemy's best horses. My name is Chinupasapa, a sacred black pipe born of thunder, lightning, and rain. And I stand fully responsible before the Creator of all good things for every one of my words and actions. Hallelujah. Well, I want to thank you so much, Scott, for this beautiful, beautiful honoring. And I want to say this, that anything I have to say this evening that makes any sense whatsoever, any spiritual qualities you might see within me, if you didn't have them yourself, you couldn't see them in me. We're just mirrors to each other. And I pray we might always be beautiful mirrors to each other. As I reflected on this question about what it is to be a man, or what it is the divine masculine, I have to reflect on my father, my beloved father, Matogi Brown Bear, Phil Sr., who was raised on the Standing Rock Reservation, born in a little place called Wakpala, South Dakota, and had the great, great honor there, and also our homelands, the Honktawa Dakota down along the Missouri, the Yankton Sioux tribe, as we call it the Honktawa Nations. We also lived along Missouri with our White Swan people. There used to be a lot of white swans there. And of course, my beloved mother and my grandfathers and grandmothers, they really exemplified to me a vision of what it is to be a true human being, which I must say, at 81 years old, I'm still striving to even reflect a tiny bit of the beauty of our elders, our old people. We call them those that are on the other side camp, but also knowing they're closer in the closest vein. You know, just to give you an idea about some qualities that I believe is very important that we have as not just men, but as divine beings that we are, as sacred beings, sovereignties, ancient, imperishable, and everlasting. My father was raised by my great-grandfather, Tipi Sapa, Philip Deloria, as well as my grandmother, Ella Deloria. And because my grandmother Lima Deloria passed when he was just 5. And my beloved grandfather, who suffered, he was Irish, suffered from tremendous alcoholism. But those last part of my grandmother's life, he completely devoted himself in a sanitarium outside of Custer, South Dakota, to being with my grandmother and to taking care of my grandmother, taking care of the cattle. He was with her every moment. My father tells me of those days when he was 5 years old and here his mother was passing on the other side of camp. He couldn't get close to her. So on Christmas Eve, just before Christmas Eve, she passed on to the other side camp. And then as our extended families, which was the core of our understanding about how we should be as human beings, we had extended families. And of course, my great grandfather stepped in, and my grandmother, Ella Delory, stepped in, and they became his mentors, his teachers. Others in his life, Vine Deloria Sr., who my grandfather, they all did their best they could to care for him. And so when he was 13, as many of our children, he was sent to Haskell Indian School, it's now called Haskell Institute or Haskell University. And he went there, and of course, that was in a way a secret blessing, because while they thought they were going to bring us there and civilize us, what happened was all these different tribes came together. All these, the Navajo, Hopis, all of them came together. And they had one thing together, and that was they all understood Hunka, which is relationships that aren't blood, but there's people in your life you see who have spiritual qualities that you see as truly your brothers and sisters. And they made relationships. And I think that's the core of our kinship way, is relationships. Anyway, so we met my mother. She was 13. He saw her come in on this bus or whatever it was. They brought these children in from the different reservations. He said to me, he said, son, as soon as I saw your mother, he said, that's the woman I'm going to marry. And sure enough, 10 years later, he didn't have horses to bring, and he believed in that. He believed that a man should come and prepared and bring, you might say, what some people call a dowry, horses or whatever. But for us, it was the men who provided that dowry. And so he came with a university degree, the first people to get a university degree, and he'd saved $10,000. I mean, that was a lot of money those days. And he came to Sulphur, Oklahoma, right in the heart of the Chickasaw Nation. And he came and knocked, he was on leave from the Navy, knocked on the door of my mother and said, I've come to claim what's mine.
Oh,
Of course, my mother, she'd go, oh, Phil. Anyway, and from that time on, one quality that I learned was loyalty. Loyalty. To be loyal to your relatives. In fact, between men in our Dakota society, we had a term called koda. Koda means a special relationship. And my father said, in your life, you'll go find maybe you'll have one or two kodas. I consider Patrick one of my kodas. A koda stands with you through thick and thin. A koda literally, now we can't quite practice the way it did in the past, but a koda, if you went on to the other side camp, they'd make sure your family was okay. I mean, it's truly, and you could not, by the way, in a koda relationship, your children couldn't marry each other. Or a home cow relationship, they couldn't marry each other. That's how solid this relationship was. Now, also, as well, and I was brought up this way because I didn't know my Irish grandfather or my other grandfather. They never was part of me, but I knew very well the kinship way. And ours was one where each part, we had men's societies and women's societies. We respected those. And men, we had our relationship with each other. We would trust each other to the nth degree. Loyalty was it. If I had an issue with somebody, I'd come to them, not to anybody else. I'd come to them. We'd discuss it. We'd work it out. But we wouldn't make it a big kind of deal because it was between us. And we knew our disunity, if we were disunified, caused disunity to the whole camp. Now, at the same time, we are very, very firm about ever striking a woman, or especially any kind of sexual abuse. I'm going to share a story. It's a real story. It tells you just how strongly we believe like that. So my great-great-grandfather, Ihawachasha Owlman, was the head of the Holy Man Society and the Atasha, or the chief of the White Swan Dakotas. And he understood that once this influence came from outside and we began to have this abuse going on, that it would destroy our people. And so he had this vision when he was a young man. He was called to Medicine Butte. And part of that vision, he said he would kill 4 men in his life, justifiably. 2 of them he killed. One was a son-in-law who abused his daughter, and the other was a brother-in-law who abused his sister. And my uncle Vine Deloria shares this very clearly. And I'm not trying to be, we can't do this today. I'm going to tell you how strong it was. So he came to his lodge, and here was his daughter crying. And he's already warned his son-in-law 3 times not to abuse his daughter. 3 times. And so he didn't say a word. He stepped in the lodge. He got a shotgun, got his horse. He rode over to his son-in-law's lodge. He walked in. His son-in-law, I've warned you 3 times not to abuse my daughter. Now I'm going to kill you. Boom! With a shotgun, he was gone. Now, we also had justice and fairness in our societies. We never, ever did something without the relatives having the opportunity, if they felt what we did was unjust, to make sure there was justice. So it was his responsibility to go outside the camp, unarmed, all night long. And any member of the man's family, the son-in-law's family, who had killed, had the right to come kill him. Nobody came. Same thing happened with his brother-in-law. He warned him because he realized that this could not happen. And of course, my great-grandfather, Tipi Sapa, he was the spiritual leader in the Standing Rock for 40 years. And that's where my dad was born in Wakpala, even though we're a Hangtuwa. In his 40 years, there was not one divorce in the entire 40 years he was there. As a spiritual leader, he traveled all the reservations there on behalf of the Anglican Episcopal Church. And that's why his statue stands in the National Cathedral. He's the 3rd statue from the right. If you ever go to the National Cathedral, all the presidents go, his statue's there as one of the saints of the ages. And one time, these 2 gentlemen changed wives. As soon as he heard that, he got his team and wagon. And away he went. He said, you give his wife back, and you give his wife back. And he felt so strongly about this that, of course, now we have to understand that the only way we could survive and not be destroyed, there was no choice. Because everything, our sweat lodges, our sun dances, all our sacred ways were completely forbidden. But what he found was, of course, in the Episcopal Church, they all spoke Dakota. They didn't speak Latin, so that's what he chose to have to choose. Now, nothing against the other churches. But they would come there, he's told, my dad would tell me, 3 days before quote-unquote church, because they came together. And he told me, he said how it was. He said that, of course, again, we had great respect. So we had our men's societies, women would be on one side, men would be the other side. That's not to say one of more, because we knew, without question, that we've always been spiritually equal, women and men. The only way that quote unquote, the divine masculine has had any power whatsoever over women is because of our physical strength. And now today, of course, we see these beautiful sisters in the Olympics. They could probably most men couldn't stand up, but we don't want to get into that part. But it's loyalty, loyalty, loyalty. Another thing was that there was understanding the best we can that the truthfulness was the foundation of all virtues. Without truthfulness, you have nothing. Without truthfulness, you have nothing. On the other hand, it's a lesson I've had to learn over and over again because I'm struggling, and that is we have to learn to make the truth sweet so it'll touch the hearts of the people. If our truth is harsh, judgmental, that'll touch that in a person's heart and won't be received in a good way. I think another incredible understanding of my little journey is, my father, again, we spent so much time together. He was very, 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 very strict with me. I mean, really tough, in fact. And I'll tell this one story. It's pretty tough, and I'll close. But I think it just shows the incredible strength. So he told me as I was growing up, he said, "Son, whatever you do, you cannot lie to me." But he'd been so hurt in these boarding schools from losing his. By the way, I've never saw my father one time ever in my life raise his voice to my mother or ever say a swear word in front of my mother, ever. And all the time I growing up, they never, ever, ever, not one time. But he was pretty rough disciplinarian. I learned very quickly. It didn't make any difference if I told the truth or didn't tell the truth. I'd still get this horsewhip, horse squirt, boy. And at this point, I give thanksgiving because he taught me some things. I mean, that might seem very harsh today, but he realized that I gotten, by the time I was 12 years old, he hit me in my balls. I just look at him like this. He toughened me up, and I needed to be toughened up for what I had to go through, especially being light complected. And so I was about 14, and I'll tell you, I was as strong as a bull. I started working on the fields when I was 12. And these friends of mine would come over from the other side of Walla Walla. Can you imagine? I was sent to a school called Pioneer Junior High School, but the other guys on the other side were the kind of the young guys who were kind of poor guys without money like me. So we got together, and of course, we learned how to hot wire a car. My dad had an old pickup. You could put some tinfoil underneath that car, and so we'd go and run around. And so, of course, I thought we were being very sly. But I remember so clearly, I learned so much this day that, of course, we were in the kitchen. My mother was there. We had a wood burning stove. My dad came by, and he caught me in a lie. But he knew I hot wired that car. He knew it. He knew it. But he caught me in a lie. Boy, I'll tell you, I was so enraged. I mean, if he just would have come and told me. He said, "Phil, let's go out to the old barn. The old chicken house out there. It was concrete floor. I still see it, straw, and pretty good size." My father was quite a fighter. He'd fought about 250 fights, both professionally and also he was all service lightweight championship champion, Pacific lightweight coast champion at Oregon State University. And he said to me, he said, "Phil," he said, "when you lie to me," he said, "it's just worse than hitting me in the face." By the way, my father never swore around me. He never yelled at me. But this one particular night, and so he said, "Why don't you just go ahead and hit me?" He said, "Go ahead, you chicken shit." I'll tell you what, I let him have it. So I hit him. Blood flew. He said, "Go ahead, you chicken shit." Number three. Finally, number three. Wham. I started to cry. And he said, "Son, go see your mom." That was never mentioned again until I went through the terrible rape of my wife down in Bolivia. And I was down at American Indian Career Center, the social service director. This was about 1974. And, after my wife was raped, it was really tough on me. And I thought, well, the best way to do this is to end my life. In fact, I still have a little scar on my left hand, my hand here. And so I got a motel. The problem was I didn't have any good knives, so I had a coffee. I mean, we take those old cannery lids, and the can lid kind of sharp. So I started. It was too painful, and my dad hadn't heard from me for some time. So I remember I called at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I started crying. And then my dad gave me the teaching. He said, son, you remember that time in the old barn? He said, when I saw you, looked in your eyes, and saw so much pain and hurt, I realized that I was become an Indian Archie bunker. An Indian Archie bunker. He said, I went out to the barn. He said, I cried for the first time. He says, I lost my mother, and my dad abandoned me. He said, son, he says, you and your sister have healed me. And that's where I got that phrase. He said, son, as long as I'm alive, son, and our family, the herd of one is a herd of all. Herd of one is a herd of all. And the honor of one is the honor of all. And so I know that's a strong story, but that's what it takes to me. We have to give everything in our souls and hearts to serve the people as best we can. Sometimes we fall, but our song, which I'll close with one verse, our chief white buffalo pipe song says this. As you're preparing that Friday, it says, Chile chu, Hulale chile chu, Hulale chile chu. It says, friend, do it this way. Whatever you do in life, you do the best you can. If you get knocked down, get up. If you get knocked down 1,000 times, get up 1,000 times. If you do it that way, the beloved Creator and all your answers are going to see you. Then comes the covenant, the sacred covenant we have for the Creator. When one sits in the sacred hoop of the people, one must be responsible. There's a lot to that. And then comes the part of the Creator. And if you do it that way, whatever you ask for, that's exactly the way it's going to be. And that's the way we have to proceed. So here's that. We'll sing 2 verses. And I've got to go on to another gathering here with a whole group of young people who are coming together for Dance for Peace. And we're going to talk about the planetary binding peace treaty to end war. So I'm going to sing this last song here. And I love you all. I love you so much. So much. Thank you so much, God. So here's that song, calling upon the Creator of all good things on behalf of all of us, every one of us as human beings. Holy chili chu, holy chili chu, holy chili chu, holy chili chu, le chanuki, takuya chinkuye che tukte o shokawaji, yo takeki, mixuyo pakio, le chanuki. Takuya chinkuye che tukteo. And I want to encourage all of you to go and see my good Koda's film, Man Who Would Save the Earth, Save Humanity. It's a beautiful film about an extraordinary human being. Haulmi chante washtelo, shikjubida shidopasaba hemedo, shinkmano hemedo, haulmi chante washte. Aho.
We are so grateful to have you with us tonight. So honored, Patrick. Welcome.
Well, thank you. It's such an honor to be here. And, my brother Phil and I are on a journey together at the moment, but just sharing what he shared, it's so interesting. Our stories are very similar, and he doesn't even fully know that. So my grandfather on one side was Ponca Sioux. And my family I grew up in with was Irish. So exact opposite of him. And, I went through the whole process of growing up in a big Irish clan where my grandfather on my mom's side came up in one of those residential schools and had all the horrible experiences that Phil's family had. And that played a large role in my wanting to work with Indigenous people over time. And I won't spend a lot of time on that particular part, but the current work I'm doing, where they made the movie about my work called The Man Who Saves the World, speaks about the last 8 years of my work with Indigenous people. But I've actually been working over 50 years with Indigenous peoples, working to unite them, help them with many different things in different contexts. And I was one of the main strategists at Standing Rock for that particular battle. And ultimately, the other thing I would say is my beloved Jane Goodall and I would, on a regular basis, do Zooms and phone calls and emails because we both traveled all around the world. And then we would meet on a regular basis. And she went through many of the journeys for me in the Amazon region and with the Kogi and other tribes down there. And in the end, I brought together the majority of the tribes down there in the Amazon, and my brother Phil brought together the majority of the tribes in North America, and we decided to unite together in order to fulfill a greater prophecy that said that that would take place.
That's so beautiful. I can see in your background the eagle and the condor. And even as a child, I heard of this prophecy that one day the eagle and the condor will fly together. And as you talk about you bringing the indigenous people of the Southern Americas together and him bringing the northern tribes and then meeting, it feels like this exact prophecy. Is that what you're saying to us? It is this.
Yes, it is. So there's several different prophecies all coming together, but they all mean the same thing. So the prophecy that took place with the Kogi and the other tribes is literally what's called the Roxa prophecy, the prophecy of the condor. And it's the coming together, and that the spirit of the condor, they believed, when the world was in trouble, would come down, the spirit of the condor, and either rest in a man or a woman who was a peacemaker. And that person would unite the tribes. And they decided that the spirit of the condor had chosen me. And of course, I told them they were all crazy and they didn't know what they were talking about, but they just continued to pursue. And I went there, and actually, what the prophecy said would happen did happen. And so that brought that together. And then, because of the eagle condor prophecy, I reached out to my brother Phil, and he was working on that prophecy. And I said, well, I have the other half. Let's get together. And so we did. We got together, and now we walk side by side.
What I love, Patrick, is there's this childlike innocence about you. There's so much humility as you speak these things. It's almost like a part of you is kind of going like, I don't think I'm the guy, but okay, I'll just keep showing up and I'll do my best, right? And it just takes such incredible open-heartedness. And I remember you saying that when you were 15, you had a near-death experience. Would you share a little bit with our audience who might not know this story about how that radically opened your heart and changed your life?
Yeah. So I was 15 years old. I was a Methodist. Not that that's so important, but I was going to church as a Methodist and grew up as a young child. And I was decided to ride my motorcycle to see my new girlfriend. And a woman who'd been drinking hit me broadside. She was drunk at 60 miles an hour or more, and I was pronounced dead. And I was dead for about 7 or 7.5 minutes. And I went through a tunnel of light. And at the end of the tunnel, I saw God, and God was a woman. And it didn't fit with anything, that I'd been told. So it was really something profoundly different. And one of the funny parts about it is when they brought me back, they stuck like a needle in my heart or something like that. And when they brought me back, the first thing I did was tell the person who was working on me, there were several people all around me, but was directly over me, said, I saw God. And he said, I'm sure you did. And I said, and God is a woman. And he patted me on the head and he says, don't worry, son, you're going to be okay once this gets worked out.
He thought, well, that's a great hallucination, and you knew better. You're completely cracked open to the Divine Mother at that point.
So, two things happen which are important to our conversation about the divine masculine. The first one was is at 15, I was introduced to the divine feminine. And so from that moment on, I actually serve her. And so I'm a guy, but I'm not a priestess. I am a guy walking through the world serving the divine feminine. And she guides me through everything I've done in my whole life. And I've worked for peace and work on our planet for 56 years now. I was in the civil rights movement. I started off with some stuff with Martin Luther King. I became a champion of women's rights when I was about 16-ish and have fought for that entire time. And something important about that is he brother Phil was speaking about some of his family's issues. My great grandfather was a coal miner, and he was one of the main people to start the coal miners union to fight back against the company store and the big multinational corporations that were keeping all the miners and people depressed. So they hired strike busters or whatever to kill him. And they took 20 men came and attacked him in the night. And his wife was with him, and she fought them off to help protect him, and they killed her.
Mm.
And then they beat him until he was dead, they thought. And he went off into the woods and he healed himself. And then he came and put a poster on the town thing and said, "There's 20 of you. I know who you all are. Meet me at noon and I'm going to kill every one of you." So it's another one of those Phil story days. And then, of course, they didn't show up. So he hunted them all down. And it's not the sort of thing that I would promote in any way. But the thing that I did want to promote was this. My great grandfather taught my grandfather, who taught my father, who taught me, never lay a hand on a woman, never allow a person to, be disrespectful to a woman. And, as a man, part of your responsibility is to protect women, and not that women need to be protected in the sense that they can't take care of themselves, but rather that we have a responsibility as co-partners with women to stand with them, and make sure that they're okay. So I've pretty much done that my entire life. And then, well, the the other part is that I went through this tunnel. I had this incredible experience, the divine feminine. I went to a lot of people laughing at me, shunning me, all kinds of stuff for trying to promote that concept, as I went around. But a lot of exceptional things have happened in my life, including this thing of uniting all the people in the Amazon. Phil and I together have united almost 60 million Indigenous peoples and other people. So it's a pretty big deal. But
Yes.
here's my thought about it. From the moment I came out of that tunnel until now, I just lead my ordinary life. It might look really special to everybody else, but it's just me and who I am. And so to me, to be a divine masculine is to be able to be someone like me who's just an ordinary guy and yet can do extraordinary things and can live in a world in total respect for the divine, really in any way that you see it. I view the divine as the divine feminine, but I believe that anyone can connect with the divine any way they want. And I believe there's no guy, if you're a guy trying to be something, you don't need to. You're already something. So just be an ordinary guy doing good things, uh, respect the divine feminine, and you'll do okay.
So simple and so wise, so beautiful. Thank you for this like straight shooting wisdom. What I'm aware of is that there's a humility in your walk and there's an honoring of your humanity where some people will have spiritual ego. well, they'll think I'm more than or special, more special than someone else because maybe someone says something about you being the chosen one. But what we're witnessing is that you've done extraordinary things from the depth of humility with no spiritual ego whatsoever. And this is truly a noble, humble nobility and noble humility. And we're just
May
witnessing
I
and
share a quick story? Do we have time for a quick story or
yeah,
not?
I think
Yes,
we have some more time.
absolutely.
Okay.
And we've got
So this is
also,
my favorite story because it's where that comes from. Was trying after my experience in the tunnel to sort out, what is life about? What's the divine? What's God? What's our purposes? Why do people fight against each other? All these things. And I went to a garage sale, and there was a woman there, an elderly woman, and she had a long table full of jigsaw puzzles, like, I don't know, 25, 30 jigsaw puzzles. And they were all $2.50 each. But there was one jigsaw puzzle on the end, it was 10 cents. And I was really, that bothered me. So I asked her, I said, why is this jigsaw puzzle only 10 cents? And she didn't answer me right away. Instead, she became very defensive and she said, all the pieces are there. I counted it twice. There's 500 pieces. No pieces are missing. I said, well, then why is it 10 cents? And she said, because the lid is missing and we don't know what the picture looks like. And I realized that was the perfect answer for all of us and all of creation, that we are all pieces of a puzzle and we all have our place and we all fit together. And every piece of the puzzle is equally valuable. If you ever made a jigsaw puzzle and there's a piece missing, it's just a hole in the middle of it, right? And no piece is the same. And every piece, me, you, and every other person on this call, and everyone in the world has a unique part to play. Diversity itself is sacred. We can tell that by just looking around the world. And I mean, no two flowers the same, two people, two birds, anything. And everybody's always trying to fit you in a thing like, let's all be the same. But we're uniquely different. And it is that sacredness and that uniqueness as our piece of the puzzle that makes the beauty of that picture possible. And so I am humble because I'm just a piece of the puzzle, right? And so are you, and so is everyone else. We all have something to contribute. And the thing that we have to contribute is sacred.
Absolutely. So resonating with my path, my spiritual path as a priestess for 17 years in a divine feminine mystery school. So much of what we teach, the new initiates, is what you're speaking. It's honoring diversity and holding it in unity, in recognizing we're all part of the great wholeness and unity consciousness. And that's the way of the Divine Mother. And I see you as an emissary of the Divine Mother and an embodiment of the divine masculine in the way you walk in the world, choice by choice. Thank you for this work you're doing. So
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you, Scott.
Patrick, I'm going to come in for a moment with two quick questions, one from me and then one from Dr. Laura. For me, would you say that for you, just being a man doing great work is because you've opened yourself to be a vessel for spirit to flow through? That's really how it works. It's divinity comes through us. We open, we step outside of our ego, we step outside of our and we align with divinity moving through us. Would that be how you do it?
Absolutely. Because look at the name of what we're doing right now, the divine masculine, the masculine with the divine connecting through it or to it. So that's exactly perfect.
And then Dr. Laura's question is, what else did God, the goddess on the other side, tell you or show you?
Well, a lot of different things. The primary thing is that for the world to work properly, each and every person needs to be seen as sacred and needs to be addressed in that way. And so she made my heart so it hurts when I see injustice, when I see anything that makes it so another person is not wholly able to be them. So, you know, whether they're gay, straight, man, woman, believe this or that, you know, black, white, brown, whatever, it doesn't make any difference. The very first thing I do when I meet each new human being is I look them in the eye and I say to myself, you are sacred. And then I begin my conversation and my interaction with them from there. And I believe that that connection is the thing that allows me to do all the work I do in the world, because it might sound like a big deal to try to unite 600,000 people in the middle of jungles and stuff, but there's not any tribe or group or elder that I walked up to who didn't say, yeah, I want to be on board. You know, it didn't take a lot of convincing. It's because they could see that I could see them.
Mm. So really practicing seeing God, seeing the divine, seeing the eternal beloved in all. And that's a great kind of closing for Patrick's part for us to remember. And I do want to encourage people to go to the McCollum Foundation, which is, you know, of course, obviously Patrick's organization. And Patrick, can people find where to see the movie by going to patrickmccollum.org? Is that the best place to go?
They can, but the best place to go is themanwhosavestheworld.com. Themanwhosavestheworld.com. And because new premieres and films are coming out all over the country. And so I don't know even myself where they all are.
I'd love to just share. It's amazing. It's so fun and it's a ride. Go see it.
Yeah, it's going to be in San Francisco and Oakland on January 27th and 28th. And there's Patrick wearing, I think, the same shirt you're wearing tonight. So that's pretty cool. And it's
That's
themanwhosavestheworld.com. And you can also go to the McCollum Foundation for Peace to learn more about the work that Patrick is doing. And I'll put both of those into the chat box. Patrick, I love you so much. Thank you.
I love you too.
So good
Such
to
a
be with
pleasure,
you.
my friend.
Thank you, Patrick.
All right. Good night.